Hello, and welcome to today's light reading webinar, AI at Scale, the Data Movement Blueprint, sponsored by Microsoft and broadcast by Informatech Target. Before I hand it over to our speakers, I just want to remind the audience of a couple of things. This webinar is interactive. At the bottom of your screen, there are buttons you can click to learn more about today's speakers, download the slides, share this webinar via social media outlets, and participate in the Q&A session that takes place at the end of our presentation. You can also use that Q&A area to let us know if you are experiencing any technical issues, and our team will do our best to assist you. At the end of today's presentation, please take a moment to complete the survey that's open up on your screen. Your feedback is extremely helpful. All right, let's get to it. Over to you, Jim.
Thanks, operator. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. So today's webinar is entitled AI at Scale, the Data Movement. So what I'd like to do first is just provide a little bit of context. So what we're going to be talking about today is really focusing on the network from an AI and service provider perspective. And really we're going to focus on why the cloud control plane and the network really must work together to turn AI pilots into commercial outcomes. So it's a really timely topic, and I think it really will provide you a lot of detail in terms of moving ahead with your AI program and really managing data at scale as well. So we have with us two presenters. We have a presenter both from Lumen Technologies and Microsoft, today's sponsor. So let me start with Lumen Technologies. So we have with us Marco Rhoda, who is VP of Connected Ecosystems at Lumen Technologies. Welcome, Marco. Looking forward to your presentation and your thoughts. Maybe before we start, share a little bit about your role at Lumen Technologies.
Well, for sure. Thank you for having me here for two reasons. One is it's exciting to talk about AI, but also it's great to have a reason to wear a collared shirt. So very grateful for that. My role at Lumen is to run a few teams that help support our connected ecosystems, which is the question that we probably need to have answered. Connected ecosystems for us are our partners that ride on top of our network, that provide the value proposition that solves business problems that we empower as the foundation. The company's broken into three parts. One is physical network, our fiber. Two is digital, which you can think about all of the things that we need to do to run our fiber, including with our partners like Microsoft. And then the third is connected ecosystems. So how do we bring partners, our network together to go to customers and solve problems?
Great, thank you. Thank you, welcome aboard. And also joining us from Microsoft, today's sponsor is Andreas Gill, who is Director of Business Strategy, Global Telco and Media at Microsoft. Andreas, welcome back. Always a pleasure to work with you. Maybe tell us a little bit about your role at Microsoft and what you'll be focusing on today.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Marco. Hi, everyone. Andreas Gill. I'm an industry advisor for media and communications and here in Microsoft, and I spend my days working with all the telecom operators on exactly the question at the heart of this webinar is how do we use AI to generate valuable outcomes to the operator's business? So I'm really glad to be here today and co-hosting this with Marco and being able to present you, all the audience, all our partnership with Lumen and how this project for go-to-market is very important for us.
Great, thank you both. Okay, so I'll just cover briefly the agenda and then we'll jump into the discussion and the presentation. So we've really kind of broken today's session into four different elements. The frontier transformation, we're going to hear from Andreas about that. That's really going to discuss Microsoft's Frontier AI program and what it is and what it's important. And then we'll also talk a little bit about some of the other areas as well we'll focus on. Will be, just let me go back to the agenda here. We'll also talk about data and moving it, why AI stalls when you have a lot of data sets to manage. We'll also talk about why there's an architectural shift required. And we'll also talk about the blueprint. This isn't the really focus of the webinar. What's the data blueprint and what will it do for you? So as I said, we're going to start here. We're going to start first with a presentation from Andreas to present the Microsoft Frontier AI program. As I said, really he'll give us kind of a drill down on what it is and why it's important. So with that, I'll push the slide out, Andreas, and I'll let you start presenting.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Thank you. So Kate Johnson, the CEO from Lumen, framed the network as the network system for AI. And I want to build on that because if this is the network system, frontier transformation is basically the operating model that decides what to do with all the signals that we're having in a company, okay? So we call the frontier firm, simple to say, probably hard, but really hard to build, is a human-led AI operated organization that makes intelligence available on demand, okay? This is a shift from using AI as a tool to embed AI as the core operating model for all the business that we are having in the operators, okay? So AI in telecom has crossover. We are right now maturing a lot with AI, and we're looking at $60 to $100 billion of impact for all the AI use cases that we're having. And more important, for the B2B on AI, the revenue is growing at 65% per year, okay? So this is the new enterprise growth engine. It's not an MVP, it's not a POC, this is not something that we're trying. This is the new growth engine that we're seeing right now on the operators. So, but this is not only happening on the go-to-market, this is also happening internally. We are seeing right now that most of the operators are right now implementing autonomous networks, and they are having aggressive plans by 2028. I mean, maturing on the automation level. And we are also seeing that 76% already have made AI as a default solution for the customer experience. Okay, so the ambition for us in the telco environment and for all what we can do in the market is there. I mean, it's set. The gap is not ambition. The gap is not about the AI or the models. The gap is the foundation that we are seeing underneath the data, the network, and the trust layer. And this is basically what we are going to be unpacking and discussing today.
And Andres, excellent discussion. Before we go any further, maybe I would sort of jump in here a little bit. You know, as you indicated, there's a lot of many components in terms of frontier, in terms of AI transformation, in terms of service providers. And I've been doing a lot of research around AI enablement as well. And I've seen areas where it's focused on security, it's focused on B2B services, it's focused on data management, sovereignty. There's so many components to this transformation. So I'm just kind of wondering, you know, are you working or are you starting to see service providers starting to really change their operating model? Because really operationally, AI kind of impacts service providers on all levels, as I said, data, transport, application. So are you really starting to see that they're really starting to do that? And also maybe how are you kind of helping service providers develop a new operational model?
Excellent comment, Jim. And thank you, because this allows me to introduce the next slide. So when we are talking about the operating model, we need to understand where we are. We traditionally run telco in silos. That was before. We were having customer network, we were having billing, service, separate systems, separate teams, mostly manual decisions for all the things. And that was okay. That was tolerable when the network was a little bit more predictable, I would say, and when we didn't need anything for orchestration services and we didn't need any information to become available for AI. But it breaks in the moment that we have AI trying to act on real time across the different areas, across the whole business, okay? So the frontier model, what it's doing basically is implementing all this AI in a connected way, not in silos, but in a connected way, making real-time decisioning systems and breaking up basically the boundaries that we were having before, okay? I would like to highlight the foundational components here. First of all, we're having the ontology, and this unlocks basically all the data that we're having. This is all the connections that we're having from customer data, network, billing, service, in a shared understanding, become one shared understanding for the whole operation. It basically turns fragmented data into something that the business can act on, something that the AI can execute basically on that. This is AI basically executing what we need. Is not AI guessing, or is not AI hallucinating. It's AI acting on the things that we really need AI to act, okay? Then we are having the governed decisioning. This is the retention offers, this is the network remediation, this is the billing adjustments that we are doing, all working in a coordinated way, working holistically, not in an isolation way, okay? Then we're having the agent orchestration, that is agents working across the different domains, customer experience, BSS, OSS, network, and of course, including autonomous networks, and running the business as one system, one solution. And finally, we're having the trust control plane that is every decision secure, governed, scalable. This is where basically when we are having Azure controlling all the processes that we're having, regardless of where the process is running, on premise, on the edge, on cloud, it doesn't matter. Basically, it's controlling what is really happening, okay? So the shift that we're seeing is from disconnected workflows, disconnected solutions that we were having in the past, to real-time telecom and operator talking about grow revenue, taking out cost, improving the customer experience, of course, all at the same time. Okay, so that's the main message of this slide. Is the control plane, is the agents, governance, and ontology, and none of this works without having real-time access to data. Okay, so this is basically what we're constructing here. Okay, just. So what are we having here? How we are constructing and how we are capturing all this together, and this is the work that we are doing basically with Lumen, okay? And this is the part of the partnership that it's really get me excited, okay? So we are having an agentic, we are having a productivity lead go-to-market solution built on top of the portfolio of all the solutions, all built in these three horizons that we are presenting here, okay? The first one is how we are transforming the way that we sell, okay? So this is putting an agent, putting Copilot in front of every seller, working on the workflows that we're having on the selling process, quoting, proposals, and all of that, automating the processes and making it better and faster, okay? And of course, having the digital marketplace that serves all the selling process, the legal stuff, the legal part, the commercial, and the logistics point of view, okay? Covering all that. The second part is the familiar resale that we already know. I'm not going to get into details for that one, but it's the traditional Teams phone, the security, M365, all the devices, the bundles that we can do around all that, Surface and everything, okay? And the third one is the part that is really the exciting part, is the co-selling beyond the usual place, is how we are using AI in different ways as voice, or an agent factory for different use cases for SMBs. If we are using security, of course, we are developing industry solutions for different areas, different segments, healthcare, manufacturing, logistics. And the most important piece that ties the whole webinar, and I think the whole structure of this together, is the connectivity, the edge computing, data, and the AI inferencing at the edge. This is what puts everything all together. And this happens because AI doesn't run in a single node far away, in a single cloud really far away. AI runs where the business actually happens, okay? And this is why you need network and edge working as a one system, okay? With the cloud, with the whole solution, okay? And this is a strategic part, I would say, from this partnership, okay? Centralized cloud cannot alone meet all the possible expectations and requirements that we are having for the AI solutions that the market is demanding, okay? Inferencing has to happen close where the data is created, at the edge and with the network, of course. And this is exactly why this partnership here with Lumen is bringing all what used to be a cost center for Lumen, what it used to be cost for them, is becoming a huge AI advantage right now, putting all these components together, okay? So, important two messages about this slide. The first one is that no hyperscaler can run or can build a B2B engine alone, okay? This is a fact for me. This is something that is really important. And the second thing is that AI is not just a cloud issue. It's not a problem only on the cloud. It's a network and data movement problem. It's a challenge that we need to face from the network and the edge point of view, okay? So with all of this, what I was trying to is here to basically frame all the conversation that we're going to have, and let me hand over this to go into more details and deeper discussion with Marco. So we can talk about the details.
Yeah, before Marco, sorry, apologies, Andres, before we get to Marco, one of the things I just wanted to jump in here, I think you kind of hit a couple of the real key points that I wanted to raise here. We talked about the S&P digital marketplaces, self-service at scale. I mean, to me, that's really an important part of all this. You talked about security. We had our Network X Americas event a couple of weeks ago, and I moderated a panel that was all about AI infrastructure at the edge, and I was very much surprised at how fast and how much innovation, as you talked about, is really happening at the edge. And I think, from a service provider perspective or telco perspective, it really is kind of, I think, energizing telcos to be able to offer new services, SMB services, And what was really kind of interesting for me at this event was just the demand from a B2B perspective of both on the service providers, the telcos want to provide their services. There's a lot of the enterprises and the businesses that want to consume these services. So to me, there's kind of a real opportunity here for telcos to really drive as they move forward with the transformation process, really to be able to drive some new revenue streams. So do you agree with that?
Yeah, but totally. I was there as well in the Network X session, and what I'm hearing all the time is basically how we connect all this data that we're having everywhere. This applies for telco, this applies for all the different segments, for the distributed stores that we might have, the branches that we might have in finance. So this applies on how we create only one architecture that is able to create all this value on AI with AI that we need to deliver. And I think, and I would like to highlight, this is not a work that we can do, that Microsoft or any hyperscaler can do alone. This is by any means a one company work. This is a partnership that needs to be built, that needs to have many things under control, the network, the edge, the security, many components. So we can understand how we use all the data, and we can provide value from the data to the AI. So I totally agree. This is a starting. We're seeing this right now in the numbers, in our figures, in the revenue growing. So this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of this transformation.
Great, thanks. So with that, Marco, we're going to bring you in here because you're the network operator. You're actually doing this, so we have to let you provide the real single point of truth here. So I want to turn this presentation over to you, kind of give us your thoughts on the AI data blueprint. So please go ahead.
As we sort of talked about doing this and talked about how we're actually working through this conversation, we realized that we needed to think about how we got to where we are. The reason that we need to have the data available to AI is because we spend a lot of time decentralizing. Thinking way back when, I won't date myself, but this is when I started out in technology. Data lived in a few centralized systems. We had ERPs, we had CRMs, core databases, and then we had things like SaaS explode, which started to centralize some data, but it became transactional in nature. And then we had clouds and data lakes come along, which did for sure promise consolidation, but it also delivered duplication. And as you can read here, latency and complexity. All of this to say that today where we are, Lumen, I think pretty much every company of a certain size, is that data is on-premise, it's in the cloud, it's sitting on the edge, it's sitting in partner databases in SaaS, it's sitting in a data center. So it's very distributed. And the reasons that we got there were valid. We wanted to get the right experience to fulfill the outcomes that we had to fulfill. So, as we think about this today, we have to think about the fact that data does live in many, many places. And we're at a time where AI needs to bring it back together so that we can do things like train models. So, when we think about the challenges to run AI workloads, Lumen is a frontier firm. One of the reasons that we're a frontier firm is because we have been on this journey with Microsoft since the inception. The stat that I love is that Copilot has been around for 3 years. Before that, we called it machine learning, but we've been there since the very beginning of the AI explosion. And there are things that run across all of these, which are security, for sure. But as we start to break down the pieces that are causing challenge, we have to think about cloud latency. Can we actually deliver the right data or the right results from an AI workload to a user in the right amount of time? I'll give you a little example of that. We are working with a customer that needs to be able to distribute AI. Needs to have their users use AI to get information. It's great if it's one user with one AI workload sitting in the cloud, but when you have thousands or hundreds of thousands of users sitting across the country at different times of day, all hitting a single cloud instance, you start to get problems of latency. So how do you distribute the inference workloads to make it effective and allow for the right user experience to, again, drive adoption and drive the usage of AI? Second is hybrid clouds. We're no longer at a time where a large enterprise is just sitting in the cloud. It's in the cloud, it's in the data center, it's sitting on premise, as I talked about before. Hybrid environments don't have consistency and operating models for seamless operations. What that means is that the data sits real time. We need to be able to fetch it at the right time to be able to affect the AI workloads. Third is data gravity. If we think about trying to move all of the data that sits across all of these locations back to a single place, you can imagine the complexity. It's expensive. So ROI on AI becomes very difficult to manage, but you have the problems again of data duplication, business requirements for this transactional data that might be sitting in multiple places. As you get to scale, it just increases significantly what you can do effectively. Compute limits. I think we're all sort of seeing in the news the stories about GPUs being available or not being available. The issue that we face is that, you know, workloads are executed in various places and those results have to be brought back together. And we have to respect the fact that there are compute limits. Centralized execution, it reduces responsiveness for time-sensitive workloads. Performance degrades. And then control complexity. If you think about all this data that's sitting in all of these places that you're trying to access, that you might be trying to bring back together, how do you do that effectively and not drive more complexity in bringing this transactional data together in a way that you can actually service an AI workload? I think, you know, to sum it all up, across all of these, security is key. And we bake that into everything that we do from a network perspective. Mm-hmm. Jim, you came back online. You came back on camera.
Yeah, this is a great chart. I think it really provides kind of a full spectrum of some of the challenges. And, you know, in the research I've done and kind of just talking to service providers and different vendors, you know, the cloud latency, hybrid clouds, those two and compute limits, I wouldn't say they're straightforward, but I think they're kind of a bit of a known in terms of how you plan your network, how you execute. Kind of the two that have stood out for me over the last 6 months are data gravity, because kind of the flow of the AI data sets, you talk about being difficult and duplication, but in some respects, the data follows the services, and the services are so fluid that it's hard to, I think, we're talking about the edge, it's hard for our service providers, I think, to really understand where the data has to reside, where it's at rest, where it's in motion. And it has to be able to offer those services, you know, in terms of SaaS and networks as a service. So to me, that data gravity is kind of really something that is really a major challenge. And then the second part of that is because you're moving the service execution, invocation, and the data with the different parts of the network, that kind of, like you said, really has some control complex issues. And I think we kind of increase the complexity overall in terms of not just the security, because obviously you have to know where the network is from a visibility perspective. We always talk about in security how network visibility is important. So you have to know where the data is and where it's being utilized and stored. But also the governance is kind of a major focus as well, because obviously regulatory agencies want to be able to understand where the data is being managed and sort of the overall governance. So to me, 3 and 5 kind of stood out as kind of the two of the top challenges. And I don't know if Andreas or Mark, if you agree with that, but those are just kind of the resonate with me.
I mean, yes, I agree 100% with 3 and 5 being very, very important. I think the other piece that needs to be thought about is change. Every business is dynamic and every business is changing, and it needs to be run. So this transactional data that's sitting in multiple places, that's being run by multiple solutions or multiple workloads, is being updated in real time alongside the AI workloads. So it's super critical, again, to make sure that you're respecting the governance of the transactional databases alongside the governance of how data gets exposed to AI. Mm-hmm. And really the best way to do that is to leave the data where it is and build a network that's performant enough to be able to go fetch that data as it's needed and allow for change in the business to happen.
Yeah, good points.
Yeah. So I just would like to add that we can have, and I totally agree with you, and just want to show and highlight that we can have the best model in the world, we can have the best AI in the world. But if the data is not available, you will fail. We're gonna fail.
100%.
And you can see that, for instance, in an example, if you take thousands of stores that you're having across the whole country, you need to understand that the AI is not a big training run in only one region or one store. It's a continuous inferencing, it's a continuous process that we need to retrieve across many locations. And the bottleneck right now is not computing, but it's the data logistics. It's how you use the data, how you access the data for these stores. And whatever happens, whatever you learn in one store needs to be spread out or needs to be replicated in the rest of the stores. So for me, all this is what we are seeing here, the challenges that you're depicting, Marco, that are really important, is they are not separated problems. They are all symptoms of one thing that we need to solve, one root cause, that is AI basically having only one architecture so we can exploit all the data we're having and we can have access to all the locations that we need to have, okay?
Yeah, so I'm going to say that back to you, Andres, in a slightly different way, because I agree. The term that we've been using and thinking about is context, which is that, you ask an LLM, I need to cross the street, it's going to give you an answer. Now, if you say to the LLM, I need to cross the street and the street is empty, it's a Sunday, there's no traffic, there are no cars on the street, it's going to give you a different answer. It's the context that matters. And this is the point of all this transactional data, is it adds context to allow AI to be more honed and more correct in its answer. And to your point earlier about drift, it prevents drift because it's always setting that context correctly. So, if you can get to the data and you can get the right context to give to AI to be able to answer the questions that you have, you're better off. And that's exactly why we need a performant network that can go get the right data at the right time in a seamless way. So I think we stole a little bit of the thunder from this slide with the previous slide and our conversation, but there is no question in my mind, and I welcome your feedback, that unless that context is there, you're going to get a certain amount of value out of AI. It creates more value when it can access the right data at the right time. Traditionally, analytics tolerate fragmentation. AI can't, because it needs to be able to be given context across many different dimensions of transactional data. Again, to cross the street, it needs to know traffic patterns. It needs to know day of the week. It needs to know the weather. It needs to know all sorts of things to be able to actually answer that question in the same way every time. So if you don't have that fresh, connected data, it's going to be very difficult to maintain that context. And it's not necessarily a problem of compute, because we have compute distributed to be able to service these places, these transactional systems. It's about the traffic pattern. You said it up front, Andres, and Kate called it the nervous system for AI, and that's fundamentally what we've got here, is the ability to actually create that nervous system, go fetch the data that's important when it's needed, to be able to bring back, to give context to AI to be able to be successful.
Absolutely. And Marco, I would like to highlight as well that we are not here trying to fight with the data gravity. Data gravity is something that we cannot beat. Data is where data is, okay? Where the business processes are happening, where the people is. So we're not fighting that. What we are trying to construct here is an ontology, is a process that allows data to be fetched, to be captured, to be exploited for the AI whenever it uses. So right now, what we are seeing here is a bunch of different components from the cloud itself, from the edge, from the network, that are getting all together to allow the system to work as only one solution for all the data to be basically accessed. So really, really excited about what we are constructing here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that we can't fight data gravity. That's the ROI for a company, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Those systems are built to actually bring the profit that the company needs to survive, AI sits on top of that and derives more value from those core systems.
And Marco, just really quickly, this is an interesting slide. I just wanted to, one of the things that this slide made me think about is this continuous machine-to-machine traffic patterns. The services themselves are pretty dynamic, as we said. I'm just wondering, as you work through this from a network perspective, these traffic patterns must be also pretty dynamic as well. So it's not just a matter of managing the data gravity part of it, but it must be also trying to understand or make sense of all the changes in these different patterns. Is that something that you're seeing as a key focus?
Yes. Yeah, fundamentally, if you think about the way that that networks have been designed, it's to distribute data, it's to push data to various places to be able to service whatever is needed, right? What we're talking about now is actually reversing that and being able to bring it back. The question becomes, do you architect that within your existing network, or do you build a network that's purpose-built for AI, or build adjunctive paths alongside your network to allow you to have that bidirectional movement? Deriving from context allows you to make decisions that might drive data being pushed out in different ways. There's architecture that needs to be figured out, but the traffic pattern is certainly changing. Data is now moving bidirectionally from these transactional systems, where traditionally we push some data out, it sits there, it gets processed, and then it gets used.
Right.
So that nervous system needs to be bidirectional, and I think that's the newish part of what we're seeing when it comes to powering and enabling AI workloads.
Yeah, great points. Thank you.
Of course. So, we've talked about this a little bit, but when we think about how AI is rewriting the traffic patterns, it's no longer pushed to a cloud and then report from that cloud. It's premises to premises. It's DC, it's data center to data center, it's data center to cloud. There's a much more complex set of patterns that need to be enabled to be able to bring AI to life. And it's the same thing with data and workload orchestration. On the left side, when you think about how we connect users to applications, we call it sort of this north-south traffic. With complex workloads move from premises to cloud, transition to software as a service. Again, that data is used for very particular ways. As we now think about AI and data and workload orchestration, we need to have that layer that sits there and says, okay, how do we orchestrate this data in a way that allows for traffic patterns to be effective and continue to change as more data becomes available or as data is retired? I'll keep going.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just want to mention one thing, and I think it's important to just to, contribute and complement. The consistency here for all the different processes is very important based on the data, how we are accessing the data. Not only that we're having data available, but how the processes are being consistent whenever you want to run them. And probably getting a little more technical, the APIs, the portals, the management for the users, the automation tools, the DevOps that you are having all around, all of that needs to have a unified way to control everything. So really love how we are using this data and how we are constructing the whole system on top of this. Okay, just a comment about that.
The nervous system. You're absolutely right. When we think about the various industries that we're servicing, we have HIPAA requirements, we have GDPR, we have Safe Harbor, we have all of the things that require us to make sure that data is moving effectively and in a governed way with all of the rules being met. So you're absolutely right. The complexity beneath this really drives us to think about orchestration, right? And we didn't practice this, Andre, but it's a great tee up for the slide. When we think about centralization to orchestration, it very much has been a hub and spoke model. Data starts somewhere and then it goes out to various spokes and it gets used in those spokes for whatever purpose it is. Now with a control plane, we're actually changing the way that we actually talk about data movement. we're thinking about the fact that data needs to be dynamic and movable to be able to service AI workloads. Context, again, is driven by being able to get the right data at the right time, but also being able to change. So if you need more context, if it takes you 6 months to get context moving effectively, you don't have a control plane. What you really have is that hub and spoke that you're trying to figure out how to work. So, the more dynamic you can make this coordination, this control plane, the more richness you'll be able to bring to your AI systems, AI workloads, and again, bring context to bear so that you're getting the same answer every time and a richer answer because you're able to supply more context as it's needed.
Totally. So I think I'm contributing here, Marco, the old model, as you were saying, the hub and spoke, that putting everything, all the data into one place, this is right now obsolete. This is not, and the challenge of decentralizing, centralizing is not what we are talking about here. What we are talking here about is how we are having a control plane that coordinates all the models, all the pipelines, all the workflows, and the interactions that we are having across different solutions. And basically, I would like to highlight 3 things. The single control plane that we need to have, otherwise it's going to be isolated solutions. Then the security that is basically attached to data, the security that we need to have not only from the perimeter way, for controlling the system, but traveling with the data, how we're accessing the data, who can have access to the data, who is using and exploiting this data. And the orchestration that we are having that is an event-driven, that is not predefined, that we are not constructing as a predefined solution, static, is dynamic. It depends basically on the use case that we are having. And when I think this orchestration, it ends up being the operating model that is going to help us to scale on AI, to grow really fast and implement different use cases.
Yeah, I love what you just said and agree with everything. The thing that you bring to light, which I think is super important, is the security piece of governance for data. Really moving from that security tied to a location to security traveling with the data and actually encapsulating that data in a way that's secure and make sure that only the right people at the right time can see it and use it in their AI workloads.
And Marco, maybe if I can just ask something really quickly. And one of the things, an excellent slide, one of the things that I kind of see in this orchestration control plane model, and maybe I'm way off track here, but one of the things I see a little bit differently about this orchestration control plane model is the addition of intent. To me, kind of what we're doing versus the hub and spoke model is there's a lot more focus on intent. So understanding kind of, you got about dynamic event-driven coordination across environment. But to me, a lot of that is kind of driven by intent of what the service will execute. And some of that is now kind of AI-based intent. To me, that's a bit of a fundamental change from centralization as well.
Yes. So yes, and I would say that thinking about orchestration, you have to go through a process to be able to enable AI workloads properly, which is what's the problem that you're solving with this AI workload, right? What are the goals to actually solve that problem? And then what's the work that you have to do to be able to get the goals solved to be able to say the problem is solved? If you're not going through this in a way that allows you to say, hey, this AI workload is solving a problem, you're going to have sort of orphan things that are sitting out there, maybe working, maybe not working, but how do you measure governance? How do you measure ROI? How do you do all the things that you need to do to be able to say, this thing is working if you're not thinking about that problem statement up front?
Okay, perfect, yeah.
So when we think about the network becoming the system, there's a few things to think about. One is data center growth. We're expecting 10x growth between 2025 and 2030. GPU cost savings is dropping as network increases, and then low latency requirements are going up. That example that I just gave you of a distributed AI solution for a company that has hundreds of thousands of users around the country hitting at a different time from a different place in different geographic concentrations, you need to be able to manage that low latency. And that's what our network is actually built to do. It's built to be able to connect data centers to the hyperscalers, take advantage of things like GPU cost savings by being able to use GPUs in the right place at the right time to train the data so that it's available. And then also, we're built with a metro edge that allows us to fulfill low latency requirements. Think of that as a gateway to our fiber. It's compute that sits on our edge that offers latency across geographies. I think the stat that's important is that we can offer sub 5 millisecond latency to anywhere in North America through our edge because of the fact that it's sitting on our fiber. And it allows us to build architectures that, again, orchestrate data movement and takes advantage of the cloud, takes advantage of data centers, GPU as a service, whether it's in the cloud or in a neo cloud, and allows us to build these architectures that the network becomes the nervous system for these AI workloads. With that,
Totally. So Marco, only one comment here. I think you are highlighting something that is really important here from the economical and the feasibility point of view. Basically, the amount of money that you save by not moving 1 petabyte, for instance, is huge. So if you need to process this data, you need to process the data with AI on the edge and use the GPUs in a cost-efficient way, you will save a lot of money. And this is why we cannot fight basically the data gravity. The data gravity is pushing us to process data wherever it is, and it's a time to value component. It's something that we cannot fight, okay? It's not negotiable. It's not, we cannot even think about that, okay? And there are other components, like in the cases that you're presenting here, like surgery, telesurgery, drones, robotics, that is gonna be impossible to run basically some processes from the centralized cloud point of view, okay? So you need basically to have the data, the edge working in that way. And well, that's the outcome here. That's for me something that is a fact right now. We don't need to fight.
Yes, and to add to that, the data that's required to manage AI and govern AI is actually expanding as well. Things like log data, things that allow you to understand what agents are doing. So the ability to dynamically change your network bandwidth to dynamically increase the size of your pipe becomes important as data gravity. As data is staying in one place and you're accessing as necessary.
I agree.
So I think we talk about this together, Andres, but I do think that we have a unique partnership that allows us to enable AI through integrated connectivity. We offer up to 400 gig fiber connects. Between us, we can extend the Microsoft Azure out to our metro edge with things like Azure Local, which gives us that hybrid ability to have that control plane to say, hey, data can move, and we can watch it move, and we can drive that. We enable data gravity because of the fact that we have connectivity pretty much anywhere in North America. Between data centers, clouds, and on-premise. And then because of the fact that we're able to move this data efficiently, Microsoft offers the ability to do things like compute limits, because of the fact that we can figure out the best place to run the things that we need to enable AI. And I think most importantly, from my perspective, we reduce complexity because we have that control plane that can sit in Azure and actually manage how this data is driven across all these locations.
Yes, Marco. So we and I'm constructing on top of that. We have been building in the previous slides all the challenges that we were facing, the scenarios in which we need to use and how we need to exploit AI, use AI. And I will say that this slide comes pretty obvious and comes as a conclusion that this is not two vendors stapled together, that we are not just gluing here solutions, that this is one architecture. This is one control plane, one nervous system. It's only one solution that we are right now delivering to our customers. It's not putting pieces together. That's the most important part because of all the challenges and all the things that we just saw there. So I think Microsoft is bringing platform, control plane. Lumen is bringing network and edge, all the solutions that we're having and all the relationships that you're having with the customer. And together, that's the foundation that I think AI has been missing for many use cases, is that we can train centrally, is that we can infer doing the AI inferencing at the edge, that we have one governance, that we have only one solution that we can deliver to our customers. So this is pretty much obvious, and I'm really happy that we are reaching this stage and that we are constructing this message here in all this presentation and reaching this point.
Yeah, and I have to say we're eating our own dog food because this is the way that we're approaching a lot of the workloads that we're running here at Lumen. The one point that sits on top of all of this is the fact that we are both independently managing security that integrates seamlessly.
Yes.
In other words, with things like the Microsoft Graph, access to data is already built in from a security perspective. Same thing with Lumen. When you're running on our network, we're building in security. So I think you're absolutely right. The combination of the two is unique for all industries.
Exactly.
Okay, so last slide, I think. I think we could sum it up in this way. What we're proposing will allow you to save money because of the fact that we've already got this integration built in. We've already got the security. We've got a lot of the overhead of running these workloads built together. Obviously, it allows you to make money because this control plane allows you to leave data where it is, but it allows you to actually mine it and use it as needed. It reduces risk, again, security, the fact that the data is staying where it is, it's protected where it lives, and the fact that we have security built into network and to the Microsoft platform. And then, of course, it amplifies the mission because of the fact that you can use AI to now gather the context needed to be able to get to the answers that you need to be able to go drive more business and make, hopefully, more money or save lives.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Marco. So I think we're coming to one of the key topics that we are having right now with our customers. It's not about AI value, it's about the AI return of investment and how we can optimize the investments that the customers are doing in taking, of course, as a reference, the value that they're receiving. So it's very good that you put this in place because this slide here that is showing you how you save, how you make, how you reduce the risk, is the CFO language, is what we are right now discussing with our customers all around, so we can make the AI feasible and as the use cases. And I think everyone is going to be really happy that we can optimize the way that we're doing. We can reduce the cost by controlling and using the data wherever it is, by constructing a platform that is going to have only one governance, one security layer, all of that, so we can maintain only one platform and we can develop all the use cases in only one way, not in silos, not in separate ways, not training by different tools, but only having one component here, one solution. So this is one of the key challenges that we're having, and I think this delivers a clear message about the ROI that we're having with AI.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Great point. Yeah, just sorry before Mark, we're jumping in. Before we jump in, maybe we're going to get Q&A in a couple of minutes, but I want to talk about automated SOC workflows. I mean, that was one of the things as I follow security is the SOC is always kind of designed to support certain types of services, certain types of threats. When we move into this new model where we're looking at optimizing workloads, in some respects, in my view, we have to also integrate these automated SOC workflows. But how much of a mindset shift is that for when somebody's operating a SOC and now you're working with all these automated workflows and automated services and maybe services that have edge inferencing? How much of a change is that from a SOC perspective?
It's a great question. I mean, we actually have a SOC offering that we've got in the Microsoft marketplace today. The change, you have to think about it from a technical perspective. The change is more logs and more ability to actually manage those logs and be able to use that to derive things like traffic patterns. So it's not new from a concept point of view, it's new from a data origination point of view, because we're moving data for a specific AI workload. We need to make sure that we can measure against that and track how traffic patterns are needed to change or how successful these things are. So I think it's a volume of work that gets added. I don't think it's a brand new SOC workflow. Same concept, different tooling.
Yeah, great. Thanks for adding. Okay, so with that, so excellent presentation, Marco, and thanks for your insights, Andres. So let's kind of move to Q&A. So we'll leave this up here for the next 5 or 10 minutes. But I guess we have a couple of questions from the audience, and I'll kind of maybe paraphrase these. The first one would be about AI services criteria in terms of, Marco, as you kind of move forward with the changing world that you live in terms of defining services, do you find that how you create AI services, is there a certain criteria, or are all services different? They all have different data gravity, different data monitoring. How do you kind of come to terms with kind of creating maybe a template for a specific type of AI service, or do you do that? You just kind of let the service dictate what network requirements are?
Well, I mean, AI is no different than a transactional system from the point of view of it has a purpose. So, if it's an outcome-driven workload that is solving a specific problem, it's definable. I've talked to many customers who are trying to understand how to implement AI. The thing that keeps coming up is, do you have a problem that you're trying to solve? If the answer is yes, then you can define the AI service effectively. If the answer is no, then you have some work to do. Let's figure out the problem to be able to get to the things that you need to do to be able to solve that problem. And that's where AI is amazing, as long as, again, you've got an outcome that you're driving to. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, and let me complement because I can contribute to this discussion. We are also discussing that the playing period for AI has passed. We are not anymore playing with AI and see what AI can do. This is right now gone or ended. What we are right now trying to do, and this is the demand from the management from all companies, is having outcomes, having real outcomes for the problems and the pains that the companies are having, for automating the processes that they are having. And whenever we jump into that discussion, considering the outcome, considering the real benefit that we are having, of course, we can construct and we can engineer back all the things that we need, the data, how we are going to use the data, what data exactly do we need. We don't need to modernize the full, all the possible data and bring petabytes into one lake or something. We just need to select what's data that we need to construct. And then we come with an optimized solution that is working with the ontology that we need, gathering the data wherever it is, running AI whenever we need to run it, and well, all of that. So right now, what we're seeing is totally what Marco is mentioning: outcomes-driven AI implementation. This is what our customers are demanding. Sorry.
Okay, great point. And there's a question here about AI efficiency, and Mark, you talked a little bit about this. And I guess I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but how do you see AI efficiency lowering compute requirements, and how does that influence the control plane? Obviously, it's a positive impact, but how do you see kind of this AI efficiency model helping Lumen down the road?
Well, we're already seeing it today, because we're able to take things that are very largely manual and start to drive to outcomes with AI. So on aggregate, our compute is going down because of the fact that we're able to answer many questions at the same time, because we can give the right context to an AI engine to help us become more efficient. In general, compute drops with efficiency, obviously. So if the outcomes that you're driving to are efficiency type outcomes, you will start to see that be a goal of that problem. So the question is a great one from the point of view of is there a clear answer? And again, I have to point back to outcomes, because in some cases, you're driving up compute to be able to do more. In the case of efficiency, you see it if you're driving the right context to AI to be able to answer questions faster and with less, hub and spoke data movement to be able to get to a reporting place where you can actually then derive an answer with some kind of a dashboard.
Yeah. So I will add that we are seeing optimization on AI from different angles. We are seeing how the models right now are getting optimized. And well, 2 days ago, built in Microsoft, we released new models that are going to be able to, do functions 10 times cheaper than the current models that we're doing. That's just an example. Everyone right now is trying to optimize the cost for the AI. We're seeing that also from the CPUs, NPUs, GPUs, all the components basically that are driving that. And we're seeing that also in the architecture that we are building here, in the solution that we are building here. We are being flexible. We are allowing our customers to use all the kind of models, all kind of GPUs, and the solution that we're having into a hybrid edge platform that is allowing us to do the AI wherever we need to do it, okay? So it's important to mention that all this optimization that is happening is basically being able to function, to work in our platform. We are right now offering all of that into the solution that we're having, into the architecture that we're building, the one that we just said is only one architecture that we can construct all these B2B businesses. So we're ready, I think, for our customers. The message here is that we are ready to take all this optimization that is happening, not only because of us, not only because the good architecture that we are building, flexible, scalable, and all that, but also because we can also adopt all the rest of the optimization that are happening in the market.
Okay, excellent. I think Andres, that's your last answer to this last question, I think, is where we should wrap up. We've got about 2 minutes left, but I think we've had a really interesting and informative discussion for the audience in terms of all the sort of the components and the thoughts and the piece parts associated with this whole data model. And I'd like to thank both. First of all, I'd thank Microsoft for sponsoring today's webinar, and also Marco for you and for Lumen Technologies to kind of give us your network insights into how this is all actually playing out in a real live environment in real time. It's as you said, Andres, it's an exciting time because we're really moving towards a new fundamental operational and network model, and there's so many different moving piece parts that have to be considered, but it's really exciting to see how quickly the industry is really moving, and there's definitely more to come in this. So first of all, again, thank you, Marco, and Andres. If you have any time left, you want to add anything else to this before we wrap up?
Marco, you want to go first?
No, I was going to give you. I was being polite.
Okay, I go first. So, well, first of all, thank you, Jim, thank you, Marco, because this allowed us to present the partnership that we're constructing. Marco and the whole Lumen organization, really thank you, because this happens because we have worked many hours, days, months. I will say that we are having a very good partnership, and we're talking about how we bring value to the market. I think for our customers and the audience, please contact us. Let us know what are your challenges. We are constructing something here that is flexible, that is attending all the demands and the pains and solving the pains that we're having in the B2B. We are ready to discuss retail, manufacturing, healthcare, all kind of industry demands. And we are pretty sure that with the solution, the one architecture that we are bringing the value that you need. We are being flexible enough. We are having all the AI at the edge. We are having secure solutions, and we are having only one solution, only one architecture that is putting all the pieces together so you can have an optimized way to implement AI. So thank you for all these opportunities to present here.
I echo all of those things. I'm super excited and bullish about the fact that we're starting to get to a place where orchestration is working. And I love the work that we're doing with Microsoft, because it's on a daily basis across our organization as a frontier firm that we're able to eat our own dog food and bring those best practices to market. So super grateful for the time, and super grateful for the way Microsoft leans in to help us as we start to develop more and more solutions and workloads to support this orchestration plane.
Perfect, thank you. So we'll leave it there. I'd also like to thank the audience for attending today's session, and please feel free to provide us any comments in the survey that's open on your side of the user interface. If you can provide input, that'll help us plan future sessions. But again, for Microsoft and Lumen, thanks everyone for attending today's session, and we hope to see you again in the future.
Thank you.